All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another fantastic episode of the only podcast in California.
That's right.
Too Good For You podcast. Yeah, we're here. Another week. Enough goofing around. We're going to just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
We do have a special guest in the building with us today. So everyone, please put your hands together. We got Mr. Brandon Pho. Hello,
Hello, come on in. Got you ready right here. This one's for you.
Oh, sweet.
You're already on, dude. You're just hot mic.
Hot mic.
You go in. You
That's
got
how
it.
it works. Well,
Put it closer to your mouth.
Yeah.
There you go.
I should know this, actually. I really should.
It's all good, man. We're here, though. How's it going, bud?
It is going pretty good.
It
is going pretty good.
That's good to hear. This is crazy for the show, folks. Brandon, good friend of myself. Known the guy for a while. It's been a while since I've seen the guy. But everything I know about him and everything I want to share with you guys is amazing. So I'm happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Good. I like to hear. For the people that don't know who you are, would you like to give a little introduction?
I am a reporter, a local news reporter here, or down south, I should say, in Orange County, California. And I think Norwalk is in Los Angeles County. So
It is.
I'm actually out of my jurisdiction right now.
Oh, we can get wild? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I cover mostly local government, where it intersects with the city of Santa Ana is a city that I like to cover, like to write about a lot, just because I think it's a fascinating place, and it's just a microcosm for like everything that's going on across the country, or everything that dominates the national dialogue, I'd say, in terms of like politics and stuff. I also I try to cover Little Saigon. Orange County has like one of the largest Vietnamese American communities in outside of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And a lot of what happens from just because of the background of like the people who came, the Vietnamese diaspora in this country, it adds like a layer of importance to like just being civically engaged, because they come from a country where there was a lot of conflict and a lot of feelings about how the government affected a lot of people's lives, and people were afraid, and just because of that conflict, it's really added like it's added like a layer that kind of makes local government more interesting in Little Saigon, because you can see how an overseas community interacts with democracy and a free press, and just in interesting ways, right?
Yeah.
And it's also become home to like a fast growing and dynamic like media hub of like Vietnamese media.
Okay.
And so, people talk about, stuff that goes on in Westminster, and people overseas watch it or they're paying attention to it, which is something that I hear about often from people who are in that community. And so, yeah, I'm also just like interested in what makes like a community, because it's like, how many people on your street do you like know the names of?
Yeah.
Zero.
Or know who lives where and who's going through what. Like, how many people do you guys see like walk over to like the house across from you for like a bowl of sugar? Like, it's like I feel
super rare. I'll go to CVS before I go to another house.
I mean, growing up, my parents' house, we know like the general like next door, across the street, 3. So we just have like that one circle. Anything kind of like outside of that, like that's as far as my knowledge goes in terms of my neighbors. It's just like a small little thing. But
I feel like that's a common thing too, and it's not. I feel like that is still sort of a community building, right? Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people with that experience. Like, I'm not saying everybody is and should be living in like a super tight knit community where everyone knows each other, but I hardly see people like talking with each other on the street, like,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in what makes a community, because I'm also interested in the differences between communities that are formed by, we all go to the same school, or we all have the same workplace, or we all have kids in the same sports team, versus our families go back in this city like hundreds of years, and it's like, we know we've all been around here, like when Christmas time rolls around, like holiday decoration, we all do that together. I know neighborhoods from my time covering Orange County. I know neighborhoods that are like that, that they exist, and I also know neighborhoods where everybody is just locked in their homes, and their community is beyond kind of like their immediate area or Orange County. So that's what I'm interested in.
I love it.
And when I try and do reporting, I try and capture some of those elements. It's like going to it's like cooking a meal. I guess it's a base set of ingredients that I work with in terms of writing.
Awesome. I love that.
I like it, man.
That's awesome. That just made me excited for this.
Dude, you could tell how passionate you are too when you're talking about it. So I'm really excited to see what we could talk about on this. So
I'm kind of high too. So.
That's fine.
That's even better. All right.
He's ready to party for sure then. But yeah, so that's awesome. It sounds like E-Man was saying, like that's a career that sounds like you're very like, like I'm in this. Like you're committed to it. It's not kind of like, I'm doing it and like kind of just like here and there, but which is good, right? That's, I feel like something that is always kind of a goal for most people, is to be like, this is the career that I wanted. I landed it and I'm in it. Like I'm invested in learning and figuring things out. So Brandon and I went to college together. That is how we know each other. Good old Tuffy the Titans here, with the gang.
Fun times.
Yeah. So, when you were in college, you were also a part of so you started in let's just stop. We'll just take this back.
Yeah.
You're a reporter. When did you want to get into being a reporter?
That's a good ass question. I have the same. I feel like I have the same story every time somebody asks me this. So perfect. I feel like I'm like reading off a script at this
Hey, you're
point.
prepared. It's all right.
But when I was a boy,
bringing it back.
When I was a boy, I loved watching. It was like a weird. It wasn't even one of those things where you're trying to be different or trying to be like quirky or unique. I just like loved watching the news because I guess it made me feel like secure to like know what's going on outside of my immediate area. Going back to what I said earlier, I'm probably the worst role model for like building a community because I'm very shut in, and my interests definitely, like, I'm an internet baby, my interests lie in like, shit that people, in my immediate area don't really care about. Yeah. And basically, that was like kind of going along that same lines. I really liked watching the news. I also liked writing a lot, but I liked writing fiction, like stories. And somewhere along the way, I guess, like leading up to college, like I think it was like when I had enrolled at Cal State Fullerton and I needed to like choose a major, journalism kind of just sounded like the thing, not the thing that I resonated with most, but the thing that I would like chafe against the least. Like it would be, it would be, that kind of thing. And then, but I also was thinking like, I like news and I like writing, so why not like, do something where
best of both worlds, right?
You can do both. Exactly. And then, that's how, and I joined the Daily Titan after that.
Yeah, I'll get into that. But I jumped too far in my line of questioning. I wanted to get the basis first. But, that's actually interesting, because when I was thinking of, like, stuff to talk about, and, like, again, obviously I was wondering, like, okay, like, I wonder when he got into, like, that, because, like, obviously I know from just personal experience, like, obviously, like, I'm 27, right?
Right.
I would say I've been around the news maybe about a year or two at this point in my life. Like I've always been kind of someone who was never really like paying attention much to the news, and that's just because, again, kind of the same thing like what you were saying. Like my interests weren't really aligned with like what was happening really like around me. So like the news, when it was like, oh, like here's what's going on in Long Beach or Orange County, I'm like, yeah, like whatever, like I'm busy like watching skate videos and I'm doing this, or like I'm like doing that. Like my mind wasn't like trying to figure out what's happening in the community. It obviously wasn't until I got older and started to realize, and when I became a part of the community, where I was like, I should probably start paying attention to what's happening, and again, be able to have that knowledge to voice my opinions and, you know, figure out how to be a contributing member to society in my community.
Absolutely.
What about you, news guy?
I mean, I'm a bubble child, but I did dabble in the news. I come from journalism too. That's how yeah. So I talked about this before, but I went from aerospace to economics, jumped into journalism, and then finally ended in PR. I took the journalism classes. I had to stay on with all the news outlets and seeing what's going on in the world, making sure that whatever stories I write is good for that kind of reporting or whatever the class had. But so I have that background, and like I look at the news here and there, but now it's like it's only when it comes up on my feed. Like it's like, and then if it sparks something of interest to me, then I'll go on a deeper dive and I'll look into it more. But again, like I don't really go out of my way to watch the news.
Yeah. So, that's just what I was thinking. And now, you know, it's interesting to hear someone who has a different kind of experience with the news, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would say, like, again, just personally, I was like, oh, the news, like, oh, this is for adults. This is so boring. Like, I don't care about it. Like, I was like, it has nothing to do with me because I'm a child and I'm just doing my thing. That whatever's happening. What is this, world politics? Dude, I live in fucking California. I live in Long Beach. That's the only thing that worries. Like, I'm worried about. But
yeah, I would say that's totally like the news is an adult thing, right? You don't. I don't think I would expect any kid to like just know what the hell is going on, right? So it's like for me, I wouldn't even like put that as a positive thing that I mean, I guess if you want to be a journalist, right?
Yeah.
It's good that but I wouldn't say like every kids should have lives, you know, they should have fun. Yeah. I was just kind of just a different situation.
Again, yeah, not saying that you like came up from school, you're like, fuck it, time to turn on the news.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sure you did things.
Oh,
but
that was like it was like something I looked forward to at school.
No way. All right.
I was just like, kick my shoes off, get into my like comfortable leisure wear, and then just turn on the news.
5 p.m. news.
5 p.m.
This man got the silk robe with the loafers ready to watch him.
I set timers because I had a routine where I would wake up at like 5 a.m. So that I could get ready for school, but also so that I could just like catch a few minutes of the Today Show. And this was like back when it was on West Coast time, so it aired at 6 a.m. and I was just so weird. And I would just be, my day would start so much. I would be hours ahead of everybody at school. I'd be like, you know, kind of just never really struggling with the awake problem because I dealt with that. Anyway, it's just I had a really weird routine as a child.
No, but again, I'm saying that's a fascinating aspect because from someone, and I'm obviously I can tell from E-Man's point of view as well, like that's definitely not how we ever envisioned. Like I would never wake up early to think of, I gotta watch the Today Show. It was like I have to wake up, SpongeBob, I'm chilling. Even until I was going into college, I was still just fucking watching cartoons in the morning. Like it was never.
Yeah.
But I am going to kind of jump around some of the questions that I had, but kind of alluding to what E-Man was saying, and I want to kind of get your opinion on this too. In terms of news aggregation, I would say personally, and it seems like from E-Man as well, like Twitter seems to be like my number one source for news. How do you feel about Twitter as a news source, not as like a company, because like as a company it's going to shit and whatever, we can talk about that, but as something that like aggregates news instead of just like turning to like say, you know, local eyewitness news or like CNN, Fox, MSNBC. Like, do you think Twitter or any other social media, if you have any other suggestions, I would love to get that too.
Sure.
For someone who isn't like really wanting to just sit down and watch the news, because again, for me, it's more
like the quick tidbit kind of information.
If I see something, I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. Then I got to figure out what's going on into a deeper dive instead of just having to sit through the news and waiting for, I guess, a story to come up that's interesting to me, because obviously the news covers a lot, and if you can spend time with, like, I really don't care about half of this stuff, but there's one story I do kind of want to get into, but with, like, you know, Twitter or just being on the internet and getting news, it's more just like, oh, I'm interested in this. Let's dive into that.
Did you guys ever hear, I guess, any time someone was like ranting about the news, did you ever hear someone say, "Oh, people just read the headlines"?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do you one better.
Perfect.
On social media, this is probably terrible for me to admit as a journalist, but I am one of those people who I will just see a story that's plugged online. It's not a habit that I have all the time. Let me just clear that. But like, you know, it's something that I do just as much as everybody else, which is, you know, I'll see a story in passing on my timeline, and I'll it's probably shared by the journalists themselves, or shared by somebody who monitors those kinds of stories online as a famous Twitter user. But I'll read whatever blurb that they attach to the story in their tweet, and I'll see the headline and the link and whatever. And then I'll just go, oh, okay, I've absorbed that information. I'm going to scroll on. Yes. As a journalist, I do that.
Right.
And so I think on one hand, it comes with the risk of a less informed populace for reasons like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It also, I think, on one hand, the way Twitter works is my rough non tech expertise kind of opinion of it is it incentivizes not only opinion but contentious opinion and pointed language, argumentative language. Yeah. It encourages some people would say debate, other people would say vitriol, right?
Yeah,
and it's up to you to decide as a information consumer which is which. And I think that's a good way to think about how you get your news.
So in that sense, conventional media, do you think they still, because obviously that's been a huge topic of discussion over the last couple years or so, having that tone where it's not so like Twitter-esque, where it causes debate, where do you think conventional media is still doing the best that they can to be as like neutral in terms of setting their tone, or is that just something in terms that all news is always going to have that kind of like
they're going to lean on a certain side.
Yeah, it's always
that story.
No matter where you go, it's always just going to be
it's the latter. It's the latter. Mm-hmm. I think any reporter is deluding themselves if they think that they're 100% objective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody, it's just, even when you're hyper conscious of it, like I was in college, it like led to stories that I was writing that were just like today I would think, wow, this was so irresponsible of me to write, because I was just so concerned about, this isn't an actual story or thing I did, but like as an example, it's like racism is bad, and the reporter goes, "Is racism bad? Well, let me ask the civil rights activist."
God, yeah.
And then it leans towards one side of perspective.
But it's being hypercognizant of it leads to the situation where, okay, I've talked to the civil rights activist. Now, how about the KKK? And then they, oh, okay, racism is, or you know what I mean. And so it leads to a sort of dynamic like that, where you're so concerned about
pleasing
both sides that you are now going to risk offending one of them. And yeah, I think it's just there's such a thing called as movement journalism, and it's journalism that's in ideal cases, it's open about where its biases are. I wouldn't call, there's a news website in LA. I wouldn't call it movement journalism just because I haven't asked people there if they feel like they identify with that kind of format. But, Knock LA is a news site that is open about its leftist bias. Which is in LA, leftism means we don't want people to be homeless anymore. I don't, that's not a literal, but I'm totally joking. And I think it's not a bad thing to have outlets like that, because I think as information consumers, people first of all need to scratch an itch. And if they read things that they are more likely to read just because of the knowledge they have of that outlet's kind of bias, at least they're consuming information. and then I think that's a stepping off point. Mm-hmm. It's okay, we've gotten you this far to where you weren't reading links at all to where now you are. And then maybe they can branch out into other media, and maybe they want to see what the opposing side thinks, because maybe at first it's so stupid, but maybe then they gain a greater understanding of how the other side thinks. And I'm not saying like we should build bridges with white supremacists, but I think we should just, let news media kind of flow out into whatever biases they'll flow into. And I think that we should have more media that is open about what its values are. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that means media that knows when to say racism is wrong, or, the homeless should not be cited for living on a sidewalk because that's the only place they can afford to live on. Mm-hmm. When you have media like that, it's just more compelling, no? Like, wouldn't you rather read that kind of story than a story that's like, I don't know, like a story by local TV news is terrible. And it's not because of the people working there. It's because it's by design entertainment and corporate owned. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But they often do stories about homeless people, where they're kind of just repeating, common characterizations of homeless people, and they're relying on the narrative of the authorities. Who do they serve, right? How do you get into office? You have to have money. Are the homeless people going to get elected on the city? So it's kind of just I think anyone who pretends to be objective is totally lying to themselves.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to be objective. You can't be objective with your own values and your own thoughts,
Yeah.
But I mean, I completely understand, like, as a news outlet, you kind of want to just introduce this topic and kind of give some information. But I would say it on the consumer end, like, they should do their own due diligence to also research more into it and see it. But I know that they're not going to do that because they're going to be like, we don't have time. We don't have this, whatever. But it'll open a lot more doorways and thoughts to, like, whatever the subject may be at hand. And I don't know, like, I don't know how to get more people, or how you would get more people to kind of, like, break that, to look into it more, versus, like, kind of just having that headline and then the lead going in and kind of just giving the whole explanation of what this article is about, and they think they know it without reading the full thing.
Right. It's, I mean, we're kind of just prisoners to, like, we're kind of prisoners to the way things are now, because I'm a barely 5-year experienced reporter, mm-hmm. Who knows nothing about how social media works, by the way. So it's like I can't envision, how that would work, a more accessible, like, news interaction format on social media. But I would say I'm trying to think of good alternatives to news gathering other than just subscribing directly to news outlets. I think it's important to at least be subscribed to one newspaper, and paywalls suck, but in the environment we're in, these people got to get paid somehow.
Yeah.
And then but also, I think platforms like Reddit are really good at news aggregation, because I think on both Reddit and Twitter, you can, when you post a story, you can get a good community conversation going around it. Mm-hmm. But on Twitter, it's the way it's interfaced, it's like I don't know sort of why I find it as not as effective as Reddit. I guess because Reddit by design is supposed to be more of a chat forum, like discussion, social media thing. And it's not really social media it's just discussion.
Yeah.
So I might have just answered my own kind of whatever there, but I think Reddit is a good place because you do get that vibrant community discussion around not just national stuff, but I found when I would share my stories on Reddit about, this is like OC Fair, like what the board members of the OC Fair are doing. That story is not going to do well on Twitter, but because you're posting it in a page that is already tailored to a specific audience,
these people are already interested in that topic. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck. I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, my Reddit is full of just shit posts and fucking garbage. But
it's your garbage.
Exactly.
It's your garbage.
And I always see the news tab, and I'm always like, just fuck, dude. Like, nah. Like, I have Twitter for the news. Like, I'm on Reddit to just look at fucking dank memes and fucking call it a day. But I definitely can understand that. And I see what you're saying in the sense of the discussions about different things on Twitter. Because you can post something on Twitter and, right, it'd be like, oh, like, here's my story about, the OC Fair and what the board is doing and how they're, moving funds, this, and this. And then someone will just be like L ratio, and then that's your fucking discussion. And then it just devolves into just people in the comments just taking it somewhere else. But on Reddit, because like you said, it is so very tailored and niche to every specific topic, you post something in there.
In the Orange County subreddit.
Then you get a full discussion just solely based on that specific topic. Which
exactly.
I think that
and it's insane. It's insane to see. To me, people on Reddit obviously have usernames, but to me, they're anonymous. To you, they're probably anonymous people.
Yeah,
You're never going to meet them. And it's insane to see anonymous online chatters talking about a hyperlocal news story. Uh-huh. That is just, think about it for a second. It wouldn't be a surprise to see that kind of thing about a Supreme Court decision, but something that's happening, next door to you.
Yeah. Are
you serious? There are that many people that are talking about this. Yeah.
That is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I think I'm switching over to Reddit now, dude.
That's your new news outlet now.
Yeah, I don't spend enough time on there, even though I do spend a lot.
I mean, Twitter, it kind of happens. I kind of see it. And there are a lot of local, I think because we've grown so much on social media in terms of our national, or whatever we're talking about politically, it's on social media. And I think because of that, increasingly as time progresses, with the existence of social media, we're seeing more local figures gain followings online that are, gain a sort of prominence among their local community, and it helps connect other users. There are good examples of that in Orange County. I've seen good examples of that in LA. And so it's not to say it doesn't happen on Twitter, but I find Twitter has character limits, and you're already tailoring what you're going to say based on quantity and not quality. Yeah. And then on Reddit, I think you do have a character limit on Reddit, right?
Yeah, but it's long. But it's long enough to where you can get a point across instead of just 240 characters, where it's just okay, I'm just going to grab the headline and then just one wild thing. Instead, on Reddit, you can have more context.
That's the other thing. It's a more patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more patient
Yeah.
type of community.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are already kind of, when you go on Reddit, you know you're going to go for some light reading every few minutes. You know.
Yeah. Unless you're like me, like I said, who just looks at dank
Yeah.
memes and there's no reading involved. It's just like, oh yeah, that's
Totally.
fantastic.
I have many moments like that online.
But yeah, cool. That was fun. I'm having a great time already, dude.
Oh yeah, this is fascinating stuff.
So let's go back. I guess we'll talk about how joining the Daily Titan when you got to college. How did that kind of prepare you for what the rest of your future career would become? Was it harder because it was like university oversaw, so you weren't able to like really
No, it wasn't like that at all. This was crazy.
Awesome.
Daily Titan was crazy. We were editorially independent from the university.
Oh, wow.
By some machination that even I can't recall, maybe because I can't remember shit on weed, but like, but I know that we were completely editorially independent,
Okay.
and so that enabled us to write whatever we wanted about the university.
Nice.
About, oh my gosh, there were so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember when Milo Yiannopoulos came,
Fantastic time
Yeah.
for news locally for school.
right? And we asked like hard questions about. We didn't criticize. I didn't criticize anyone. I'm sure on our editorial side, which is when you can write opinion stuff, I'm sure they criticize the universe. But, you know, we as news reporters, we asked hard questions of the university, like, you know, how do you explain to people allowing, you know, a person like this who might stoke particular feelings among certain demographics,
Especially
global,
especially in Orange County.
especially in Orange County, especially in Cal State Fullerton.
Yes.
This guy was like putting like undocumented people's identities on like projectors at, like, we knew this like he was projector screening like undocumented people, like trying to like out them or something, or
Holy
dox them
shit.
at other universities, and he would encourage like people to you know, call ICE or whatever. And we kind of saw like how that was going on at different colleges, and we knew that he was coming. It was like watching like a mine car like come hurtling toward you. And so we asked the university, you know, how do you explain this? You know, why are you letting this guy speak? And then, you know, they would tell you, we're a public university. We can't restrict your speech. We're technically, you know, public space.
Yeah.
Not public space, but you know, a place where the Constitution comes in.
Yeah.
And so, and so it was just, there was an instance like that. There was another instance where the dean of the library got fired, and like, his wife like was like having like serious medical emergencies and needed like organ transplant, and like his health insurance was cut off, and the whole library was up in arms, and like we found out like essentially it tied into sort of what a lot of people were alleging was like a struggle for control over space at the library and stuff like that. And it totally put like the university administration in our scope, right? And every story was about them, and, you know, quoting people about how terrible administration is, or how much of a mistake this firing was, or how much of an injustice it was. So, and we had like the president of the university at one time come to the newsroom, where we interviewed him about the ending of this American language program, which is like a language program for exchange students to help enroll them, exchange students in Cal State Fullerton, or matriculate them is the right term. But like, you know, we had him like we were just asking him like questions that like, in a normal conversation you wouldn't ask like a stranger, right? Yeah. It's like we really had to go there, and we were able to do all of that like as a newspaper, like just any story we wanted. And it was a hell of a it was an incredibly fun time. It was amazing. That was college to me. But they haven't even heard about our other travails.
No, they have not. Not many people have.
That was just one facet of my college experience, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, as there were a lot.
Oh yeah.
From the boys, but yeah. So then after Daily Titan and then coming into where you write now for work, do you see much similarities, or is there like a different kind of way that you have to tailor stuff, or
in terms of like what the content is, or
yeah, I mean, so would you say that you're like an investigative reporter? Because I feel, or how would you like?
That's a good question.
How would you describe your stuff? Because I know you do a lot. Like a lot of your writings are more kind of on and not quite like investigative, but you are like diving deep into specific avenues and learning about what is going on and then reporting on it, which is, I guess, an investigation when you're like learning.
I think it's a really in terms of like government reporting, I feel like you suddenly open up a lot of avenues to be considered investigative reporting just by virtue of your covering a government agency and knowing as a reporter that you can't take everything they say at face value. So you're just like inherently doing investigative work, working to confirm things. And this person said that there were X many gang shootings in this neighborhood. Well, what does the police department say? Is that does that line up with what they know? I feel like if you're a fashion reporter or a sports reporter, I think you do have to do a lot of verification and shoe leather reporting work, but it's like there's a different layer of consequence to government reporting.
Yeah, if it's like, if you're again sports reporting, if it's basketball, LeBron James has 36 points. You don't really need to confirm that with many people.
Right.
If you see it happen, it happens.
You're watching the game with everyone else.
With politics and government, like you said, like you could be like, oh yeah, so city of Orange County is dishing out X amount of money for this. Let's just double check to make sure. Turns out they were wrong, or what they were saying wasn't true. This is actually how much it is, and you've done that through multiple.
And then it's your job as a reporter to write a story saying they said this. Yeah. If it's important enough,
yes,
right?
Yes.
They said this. It turns out that they were wrong, or they lied. Yeah.
You ever have that fear? Like when you're doing this reporting, like you're making sure that everything checks out.
Oh my god.
And then it's like you're dealing with the higher powers, and you're like looking over your shoulder and everything, making sure nothing happens.
I don't think that's something any reporter overcomes. Yeah. Is like the paralyzing fear right before a story publishes that there was. Think about it. I'm writing like. We're trying to write like 600 word stories now because we want to be in and out because we cover so many different things. But I can't help but overwrite all the time. So it's like you're talking about 1,300 word stories. I'm writing like probably 4 of them per week, right? And there's no overcoming that like paralyzing fear right before it publishes. Did I get something fucking wrong here? And I've made terrible, dumb-ass mistakes about in stories that I've written, as any reporter does. It's just not, and you'll continue to do it.
And is that just something you kind of just have to take on the chin? You're just like, yeah, like I fucked up, or like do you like have it? Because it's hard for you to like. I mean, again, maybe that's in local politics it might be easier, but say like on a national scale, right? If you're writing like a big national story and you do get something wrong, then all of a sudden everyone is like, this journalist fucked
misleading
up.
Information,
now we can't take
all this
anything
stuff.
this person says.
Right.
The reputation
one
goes,
mistake.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard for that journalist to come back and like make a rebuttal, be like, okay, like that was an honest mistake. Like I actually knew that what I was trying to say, I just articulated it wrong, or I misplaced, a few words here or whatever.
Right.
So like at that point, like in your kind of like smaller local government, is that a little bit easier for you to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I messed up and like
Sure.
now, or
Yeah.
you just are just like, fuck it, like
Yeah.
now no one trusts me, but I still have to write all these.
I think that's a very scary thing about local news is because there tends to be a smaller audience for it. There is then less accountability and oversight on the news reporters, right?
Yeah.
And then and because of that, right, local news reporters kind of get to hang on to credibility at a longer duration than a national news reporter because it depends on the severity or the degree to which you were wrong.
Yeah.
It could be just I misattributed this quote to this person. Tough, but not the worst thing. I spelled this person's name wrong. That sucks. Even worse if it was a person of color, probably. But and yeah, it's just like, what are you gonna do? As long as you acknowledge the error, as long as you acknowledge the error,
Yeah.
and you're transparent about the error when it was ideally when you found it, and when it was corrected, and what the original misstatement was.
Gotcha.
As long as you do all those things, a minor to moderate correction is overcomable, for lack of a better word, or real one. And for national reporters, everything that they do is magnified to an even greater degree. Yeah. And we've seen reporters' careers just like tanked by terrible mistakes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
It is, because I mean, like look at us, right? You can call this like just a local podcast, right? And we have some of the dumbest takes that have ever been uttered out of most people's mouths. We make a lot of mistakes in terms of like just information that we say.
Right.
And it's like, okay, cool, like, okay, hey, just so you guys know, if anyone cares, last week we said this and we were wrong, call it a day, right? But if Joe Rogan, biggest podcast in the fucking universe, says anything that people can be like, it's wrong, everyone's like, this guy's a fucking idiot, like, what the hell, like, how could you say this, like, you're just spreading misinformation, like, which is a huge thing that happened with him, like, over the last couple years. But yeah, so I mean, and that's just like entertainment podcasting shit. Like, I can't imagine like being an actual
factual news.
Try to be a reliable source of information to deal with that.
Right.
I would have a hard time.
It
happens. Like
it takes a special type of personality to be willing to subject yourself to this kind of like not only work but stress.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, you just got to be like, I wish everybody was as interested in the things that happen at the local level. Because I feel like we would have a lot. I feel like people would just talk to each other more, first of all, and then when you open up lines of communication, right, you're much more likely to solve problems, and who better to do that with than like your neighbors,
Yeah.
But you don't know what problems to solve unless you're tuned in. You don't know what's going on in your neighborhood, why nobody talks to each other until you pay attention to what happens at the local level. Oh, well, suicide rates are up. There must be something going on. There's a lot of anger or resentment about this political issue. Maybe that's what's kind of punctuating things on my street here. I don't know. Yeah.
That actually leads into a question that I had. Like, how, from someone who obviously writes about local and is in it, how would you try to get other people to get invested into their local? Because again, I think just because everything is just especially with like social media and ease of access to information, everything is blown up to just national level news, to where everything that I would say the majority of people consume is more like national and like, let's just say statewide and not like local. How do you think would be the best way for people to get more involved in
Sure.
into their local?
Well, I think TikTok has been really good about getting young people at least like able to stay on the video long enough to understand a news story or like a particular quality of life issue that's common like everywhere. And I've also seen I on TikTok, like there's so many people on there that like you can have like tons of people with huge followings, and they're kind of like celebrities, but not really, because nobody's really bigger than the other. It's just a ton of you around with a wide reach, with more than, with 50 to 100,000 followers. Like, there used to be a time where that'd be like crazy, or that you were like, a somewhat big deal in terms of influencing. But on TikTok, it's like, but anyway, there were lots of people. I shouldn't say lots. I've only like come across like a few, but I feel like it's becoming a more common thing, where people who are from a particular city are reporting. They might not be trained journalists, but they're people who are educated or are educated on the issues in their city, who can present the information in an ethical way, and also kind of just inspire people in giving that information. I've seen that in Santana. There are people online who are like kind of like in a way like localized influencers. Which is really interesting to think about, because even like small influencers, they're not focused on a specific area or community. It's whoever's following them, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this type of influencer it depends on it depends on their area, what kind of engagement they get in their videos. Yeah, isn't that cool? But anyway, I'm seeing that kind of thing, and I think that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
There's one example like Fernando Delgado. He's more on Instagram, but I think he's also on TikTok, and he makes videos about like what's going on in local politics and the police. Policing is like a huge issue in Santana, hugely contentious topic. Everybody, the city council is kind of more or less split over it. More police, less police, police bad, police good, police at all. So it's like it's and he does videos with those on those kinds of topics, and it's so cool to see people engage with it and see those kinds of videos do well. Like, I think that's really encouraging that like there's a place for that, and there's an audience for that online.
Yeah.
At least, right? It's like you can't ever depend on people to just come to you for the information. You have to reach people.
Exactly.
So for you to be reaching anyone at all is a good sign. You're still in the ring,
Yeah. That's a good way to do it. So make sure you fucking go out there and support your local news reporters. Or people that are talking about your city. Like, that's
people that are talking. I would say even more so, just people who are talking about your local area.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a journalist.
Yeah.
It's like maybe the news outlet that covers your city or area. Maybe it's me. I don't cover you the way you want. It's like go find somebody then who's talking about your area. Somebody that you can somebody that can be just sort of a tent pole. I think they're tent poles, and they help kickstart other tent poles. Someone that starts following them because they're really interested and inspired by what they're doing, then starts to create their own account. It's like, we just need those tent poles. We just need to keep making them.
Yeah. What does media consumption look like for you now? Like, do you feel that you're more consumed by news like as when you were young, or are you like I go to work and all I do is do the news. So like when I'm not working, like I need to like, fry my brain a little bit, or like what is like how are you like on media consumption?
Yeah, that is really a really great answer. I think I consume less media than I should be. I think I'm consuming less news outside of what I do than I should be.
Okay.
And that's because obviously I write a lot and I do a lot of stories every week. And at a certain point, if you don't have a work-life balance, you won't want to do any stories at all. Yeah. And then, what do you have for a career now? And that's called burnout.
Yeah.
It's I have to get into a habit of it. If I break that habit, then I'm just going to be out. I'm just not going to be consuming information, as responsibly as I should be. And sometimes I'll do like what I said before, like I'll scroll past a story and then think I've absorbed it, and there's like a feeling of catharsis to read a tweet that plugs a news story that makes you think you've been informed, but you've really not.
Yeah.
And I'll do that. I'll be guilty of that. The easiest way to be responsible in terms of being aware of what's going on in the world, you have to develop a habit of tuning into a source of information. For some people that's YouTube. People like video essays, right? That's information,
I'm fucking addicted to video essays.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are. But I think the most enriching type of news is news that you read. Just because I think people should be reading more, right? And I think that print journalism now it's just written journalism, I guess, because we're not really printing any. At the rate that we used to, it's all a lot of online. Yeah. A lot of outlets are online only, like me. But if you read the news, you'll find that written reporting is less confined by time. A video news story, you have to be in and out within a certain amount of minutes or seconds in terms of your segment. Written news reporting, not like that. You can linger on a certain topic. You can find on that news story links to related news stories for more information. And you are reading, which makes you smarter, a lot smarter than watching videos, right? Or so we were told. Yeah. That would. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? I feel like I've strayed a lot.
It's fine.
On these responses.
You answered, which is all I could ask for, really. If you didn't say anything, I'd be a little bit more like, okay, let's try to dive deeper. But I mean, no, I get it. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
I want to ask.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So, kind of bringing it back to like you and your career and everything. So right now you're doing government coverage and community coverage.
Right.
Were you assigned that, or did you go for that beat, or how does that work when you're reporting? Do they just be like, hey, we need you to kind of go out to the government and see what's going on, or how do you even get like that information or figure out what is newsworthy?
Gotcha. In terms of getting information, the key to news reporting is sourcing and getting into the habit of establishing, whether it be community activists, religious faith leaders, elected officials, payrolled city executives at City Hall, getting people who don't necessarily want to be named because they fear retaliation, so they're giving you everything on background. All those types of different people are sources. And the key to being a reporter and having news stories is to be in constant contact with those sources, who every week will give you something interesting because things are happening all the time.
Yeah.
That's the thing about like local news. Things are happening all the time. Like within the span of a day, like life-changing decisions have just been made that immediately impact like home prices or whether a business stays open. Crazy amount of things.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday night, 34 cities, or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, they're all split, but lots of different like agencies that control different areas that meet on many times the same night. Yeah. And so there's just always things going on. And then you just take, it's like going to the market and, taking items off the shelf, putting them in your basket because you have to decide what's something I need to roll with right now. What's something that kind of needs to develop a little more. So, I come back to it in a week or two. Yeah.
So you have like a library of content, like kind of built out with what you're given.
Absolutely.
And then you work from there.
Yeah, I would definitely, in our shop, we call it like a beat note. It's just like things that are going on, what's going down. And we use that to, decide what story is running tomorrow, what story is running after that, what story is running next week. Sometimes we plan stories like months in advance.
Oh, wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
What's the longest you've ever worked on a story?
The longest I've worked on a story, I would have to say there was a story that I did. It wasn't like investigative or hard hitting. It was like a feature, a profile of a community figure in Santana who had passed away in August. And I didn't write the actual story on it until the holidays of last year. I think it ran in December. So it was like from August to December, I was like working on it, like calling different people, so basically this guy, his name was Armando Aguinaga, and people around the neighborhood called him Mando, and he was a corner store owner, and corner stores like play a huge role in often low-income communities where people need something within walking distance for essentials or groceries. A lot of these corner stores have groceries, like canned foods and diapers, and they also they're most commonly known as liquor stores, but and so he played a huge role in the community. And when he passed away, it was everyone from, longtime, elders to former gang members to even like the young kids who were around today, who were all just like, they all like surrounded his store like the night after he died. And then over the following weeks during the memorial tributes to him, there were all these stories that poured out from everybody about like just elected officials, faith leaders. Like they all had stories about Mando. People who were in jail, people who went to jail and made friends with rival gang members. Like these are all people. There was one guy who talked to someone I worked with on the story, Julie Leopo. She's our director of photography. And he talked to her, and he told her, when I got back from, I got locked up, and I was away from the neighborhood. He said something to the effect of this, and I was away from the neighborhood for some time, and then when I came back, Mando recognized me, and it felt good. And it's just like such a simple story, tells you so much about who a person is, right?
Definitely.
It's
and so,
impact,
I didn't want to write just like a whatever, like in and out, like roll with the punches feature story like that. A local journalist, there's a kind of formulaic feature story that I feel like every journalist can like see in their head, and I wanted to do everything the opposite of that. I wanted it to have this is where like me liking writing a lot as a kid like came in, where I was like, I want to do something creative with it. I want to install like a literary merit to the story, right? Because it's not a news story. There's no news. He passed away in August. You're writing the story in December. And this was also just because I didn't get to it because of all the stuff that we do, and I probably left it on the back burner too long. But but technically, I was working on this long, and so when it came to writing, it was like I want to do something at this point that tells the story that makes fireworks in someone's head, as opposed to just telling them who this person was. And so I like formatted it, kind of like jumping back and forth between different people, like Mondo at this stage of a person's life, Mondo at this stage of a person's life. And there were also just crazy things that happened after he died. Like his daughter went into labor like right after, and his store like months before had been robbed. And so they were just like, I had to keep it kind of like, I don't know. I wanted to keep it in the facts of who he was and what the community was and what the store was, while also like telling the story in a way a reader on our site wouldn't expect it to be told.
Yeah,
I need to find that.
Maybe it's but to who knows? But people, I'm sure there are people out there that found it totally formulaic. You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna find that. It sounds very interesting. The way that you laid it out and kind of said everything about it.
I'm sure I totally
exciting.
oversold it too.
That's fine. That's
Totally
fine.
oversold it. But
Dude.
it's called if you want to look it up, it's called Community Market Owner's Death Turns a New Page for Santa Ana Neighborhood. The wording might be off, but that's as far as I remember on the headline. I've read that headline many times. But yeah, if you want to find it, there it is.
Perfect.
If there was any story your guys' listeners were to visit of mine, I would want it to be that one.
Perfect. All right.
You heard it. You heard it.
Look it up.
Yeah.
What do you want the future of your journalism to be? Like, do you think you want to stay local politics, or do you want to, evolve into, larger politics, get out of that, do full investigative journalism? Like, what do you want to continue to do and grow?
That's it brings up such an interesting thing I've been thinking about, which is like, on one hand, it's unfair to expect a person to want to do the same thing forever.
Of course.
But it's like also, there are people covering Orange County that I interact with where they've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And I think, how the hell were you able to like talk about this shit and step into this shit? Like you're stepping into a muck of shit in some kind of topics in Orange County. How are you able to do that? Like just day and night, 24/7. And on top of that, like for decades, for a majority of your life. There are people who died doing what they were doing in Orange County. Government watchdogs, like fiscal watchdogs, people who studied budgets and crunched numbers and stuff and said, no, this government agency is fucked up. People who were doing that until the day they died. And I think to myself, how can I be a serious reporter if I am not also as deeply devoted to this topic? How could I pretend to be someone on their level, quoting them in my story?
Yeah.
How could I expect a reader to take me seriously if I wasn't all in and if I wasn't totally committed to this area? So I kind of like go back and forth, honestly, between those two things. And who knows what will prevail. I might just decide, because on the other hand, I like certain topics that are kind of more common that you could apply on a larger scale, like wildlife, the environment. I care a lot about those things. I love the state of California. I love, other parts of California, the state as a whole. I would love to be able to write about that, things that connect the state or issues that pertain exclusively to the state. I love the western region of the United States in general. I love the Pacific Northwest. I love the Mojave Desert. I love the Sonora Desert. I like natural landscape. I like nature. So I on one hand I could see myself kind of going into that work. Start fishing and own a cabin and write for High Country magazine or something like that. On another hand, it's like I like living near a lot of people. I like living in a metropolitan area. I like freeways. Unfortunately, I love driving the freeway. Cars are the worst thing to happen to this planet, to happen to society. It's made us overly ultra individualistic, totally like total disregard for everybody around us. Yeah. Most inefficient, most wasteful mode of transportation. But I fucking love driving that highway. Yeah. I love driving Pacific Coast Highway. One of the gems of the state, which is also just going over shit that it should not be going, like wetlands and sensitive habitats. Yeah. I'm fascinated by the guilty pleasures of our systems. Mm-hmm. So there's shit like that I might want to write about, and it's as great as a local news outlet is, there are other mediums for that kind of for that kind of exchange of ideas. Maybe I want to write a poem about Pacific Coast Highway or an essay. Maybe I want to be more opinionated. So I don't know. I'm kind of just like going back and forth between like, man, like, if I was serious about this shit, I would be just as much. I would be like waist high and shit in Orange County. Or, what the fuck? You want me to just write about like municipal budgets for the rest of my life? I mean, who knows? But it's not to say like I don't read that shit in my spare time, because I do. So it's just like maybe I do want to do that, But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I like it. It's good. A lot of good things.
Yeah, you got the horizon ahead of you, man. You got everything going for you.
Oh,
so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to stay, or do you want to stay in written media form? Do you think you have because again, like we were saying earlier, obviously reading is better for society, but
that's not to say it's the only thing we should be doing, but yes. It's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like you said, video essays are great, YouTube short form.
Right.
Or even like me, like my little guilty dude, Twitch, fan of my boy Hassan, dude. I get a lot of politics.
Yeah.
You talk from him. So Twitch streams are, a couple hours, and then he's going through, major news stories and doing stuff like that. So do you think you want to stay in written, or do you want to ever branch out and do, video content or any other sort of
That's a good question. I guess I'm not as fond of video as a lot of people. I do love podcasts. Mm-hmm. I am super fascinated with audio journalism, and consuming media through audio. I think it's a great and also very accessible way to do shit. Yeah, I could, I guess, see myself doing radio. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would want to be kind of just writing what the radio reporter says.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think about a lot, what would I do if I were a writer for a TV news program, mm-hmm. and how I would do shit differently there. Yeah. What kind of if I were a producer at a broadcast news kind of station, what would I cover? How could I make? Because the other thing is a lot of local government issues aren't interesting visually, right?
Yeah.
When we think about the city budget, it's what are you going to show people, a graphic of a chart, and then you tell them a bunch of words that nobody's going to understand,
or just pictures of people at city council just debating.
Yeah, video of people debating. Right. But then I kind of envision myself how would I make shit like that visually interesting, and mm-hmm. maybe that's how you get. That's how you kind of revive local TV journalism. And I don't know. That's just a far out there thing, but mm-hmm. If any TV producers watching this, happy to take a crack at it.
Got it.
But no, I like where I work actually a lot, because Perfect. I feel like I don't think I'm gonna ever get as much editorial freedom mm-hmm. as I have at the current place. Yeah.
What sort of podcasts are you listening to?
Podcasts that I'm listening to, Oh my gosh. I've only listened to like one in the past year.
Okay, give it to me.
And it is called it's the one that everybody listens to. It's so embarrassing. It's like The Daily by the New York Times. It's like, and it's of course I would listen to that one. Fuck you. Of course you would. But yeah, that's I wouldn't even say I like it. Mm-hmm. I would just say like, for me, getting into audio kind of media, like I have to be like kind of coaxed into it, like into a podcast or a certain. There was another podcast. Now that I think of it, it was like about the life of Ernest Hemingway. Okay. And I can't remember what it's called. And there was another one about. I only listened to like one or two of these episodes, but it was like about Elliott Smith songs. Elliott Smith, the 90s songwriter. And like it's like podcasts to me are like routines. Yeah. So it's like I'm not gonna like, if I'm on a morning commute, I'm not gonna like listen to a new podcast, you know?
Gotcha.
I'm gonna listen, even if I don't like it, I'm gonna listen to the next episode of some other podcast. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like I don't really know much about like audio journalism, or honestly, like I don't even know much about TV news. I only know my expertise is in written media, and I pretty much largely consume written media. So it's like, it's crazy now to think about how little I engage with other forms of media. Yeah. And that must be what it's like for other people, like how hard it is for them to engage in written media. You know what I mean? I feel like people also are just naturally video or reading type people. Yeah. I think there are a lot more people than we give credit for who like to read over video or over audio, and audio over video, or audio over written, or video, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just from me starting the podcast, I was never really big into podcasts, but after starting it, again, like you said, like just me learning more about like audio media as a form of media, because for the most part, when I think of it, it's like a book or I'm watching something. Right. But now I've become addicted to podcasts, and I have most of my day is consumed by listening to podcasts. Yeah. I do have some recommendations if you want to get into some audio journalism.
Please.
I do have some, because that is kind of. There are some stuff where, I listen to, again, kind of podcasts like what we do, where we just kind of just bullshit, and there's really nothing of substance aside from friends having a good time.
I found this conversation thoroughly enriching.
I mean, I did too. I don't know about you, but I've been having a great time.
I love this. I'm soaking it in, dude.
But then I also, just have like where, sports, cool. I'm listening to sports media, or I'm listening to other, investigative, but it's all audio. So, I think audio in terms of a form of media is a really, interesting way to look at it, instead of it just being like, okay, now I have to just read this or I'm watching. But, so shout out to podcasts.
Hell yeah.
Really holding it down.
Yeah. And that's the thing about like the different types of media, like it's not as linear as a video would be. Yeah. Or even I feel like each type of medium is linear in its own way. And yeah, it's really cool to see. It's kind of like different forms of consciousness when you think about it. It sounds really hokey of me to say, but like, some people, it's just, that's different types of media are, when you think about it, just different types of like way of inhabiting a human mind. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a few more questions.
Absolutely.
I promise I'll let you.
Oh, that's totally fine.
Have you ever experienced any sort of censorship in your journalism? And like how, and if not, just like how do you as a journalist and someone in media view censorship? And like, is it becoming more of a problem? Is it like something that just
Right,
is,
right.
or like? I wanted to pick your brain a little bit on the topic of censorship.
I have never been censored. Now that I think about it, I mean, I feel like on one side of me is like, well, duh, you've never been censored, because I feel like my life path would have gone a lot differently. I would have probably had a very substantial reaction to that censorship and would have remembered it forever.
Yeah. Just trauma.
Totally traumatized. If you're a tryhard like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been kind of blessed to have like just nothing but supportive environments wherever I went. And like, this was even true for like total cash grab jobs that I did. Like, I was freelancing for like a New York City real estate news website, and I had no knowledge about New York City news whatsoever. But I did stories that were like totally not the kind of shit they did. Like, I was writing about the New York Public Housing Authority, and their typical shit was like, Melania Trump's condo newly listed. It was like a Bravo type kind of. It was, yeah. And I was just like going down the deep end, like just like making it super serious. And
That's
like
awesome.
and the editor that I had who would pay me for these stories, and I would just write them because I needed money. And it was like it was aggregated news. So I wasn't doing my own. I actually did do a little bit of my own reporting. I would interview people, but a lot of it was just easy shit. I was in college, just aggregating news from other sites about, or just going off government press releases. And I would just be, a scandal embroiling like the Public Housing Authority chair or leader. And then, it would just be shit like, do you want to live in Hudson Yards? Or some shit like that.
Just like new apartment located right off of the Times Square.
Exactly.
Just like, I'm not talking
exactly. So I've always had, like, even in those environments,
they've just been like, cool.
They've just been like, I don't know if it's the personality that I have, or it's just like people just feel like they have to go along with me. But like, I've really just faced little to no resistance.
That's good.
Ever.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's a privilege that people like die for.
Yeah.
Like, you have to like quantify your life. I think it's helpful to qualify your life in terms of how many other people in the world are dying for what you have right now. And that's like super important when you think about like press freedom, and what you do for a living is like people are killing and dying to do what you do for a living.
Yeah.
But when you've kind of grown up or come up in an environment where you haven't had to worry about that, then it just feels like work. And then it's like, holy fuck, like your equilibrium is all off now. Like, you constantly have to like reality check as a reporter. And it's also like, I feel like this goes for any kind of profession too, where it's like you realize, I think as a DJ, you probably at parties, you're DJing and you go, holy shit, I'm DJing,
I used to.
It's that self-realization.
Yeah, I used to. Back in the day.
Gosh.
We used to have hold down throwdowns. Yeah. Sometimes I would just like snap out of it and be like, oh God, I'm here. and realize what's happening. But
Have you ever had resistance, like when you're getting stories like from people, or like they're like, man, fuck you, I don't want to tell you nothing.
All the time.
You have to have like tough skin with it, or you just like roll with the blows, just like, all right.
It's like there are two prongs to it. Like, you have to have a thick skin, but you also have to not let them convince you.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
that
okay.
what you're doing is not right, because there are people who are paid a lot of money, and they're paid a lot of money for a reason to convince reporters that this is the story and not this.
It ends right here.
Right. Yeah. Or what you're looking into, it's really inconsequential. Doesn't really matter. Like, it's nothing,
Yeah.
And there are people in Orange County who like have actually made like a career almost out of like countering what reporters say.
That's crazy. Holy crap. Exposing the system. Exposing.
Yeah.
Exposing the industry.
Oh yeah, and there are many moments where I've had a conversation with a public information officer, a PR person, like not to pile on you.
Oh no,
like,
you're good.
but like, you know, and then I come away from it like, fuck, like, do I have this wrong? Like, what the fuck? And you've already written like a 1,300 word story. That's how they get you. Is they unravel you.
Oh, get in your head a little bit.
They know what your day looks like. They know what your day looks like, and now they know sort of like how to find the right pressure points, the good ones, the well-paid good public narrative shapers.
Yeah.
Other spokespeople are just total pushovers, and you know your job is still easy. And then others just don't respond to you at all because whatever. Yeah. And I find that being stonewalled makes my job very easy because like nobody wants to say the countering viewpoint here, so it's like fuck, man, it's like open season on you, man.
Unless you say something, I don't have anything to come back.
Absolutely.
I think I have 2 more questions. Okay. How with this new, I hate getting into this, but maybe that's just me personally, but with this new explosion of AI, have you experienced any like things like, oh fuck it, dude, this is gonna take my job, or where you're just like, dude, I don't want to write this today, I'm just gonna kick it over to the AI and do this thing for me,
shit,
or like,
dude. I feel like if I ever did that, I would just go down a path of like you're seriously damaging your writing ability. I think anytime you cede a human function to a machine, like you lose your ability to perform that function. So it's like AI is no different. If you're just going to have AI write all of your shit, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to need AI and you don't have it. And then what the fuck is going to happen to you then? And of course the savvy people who know their way around everything will be able to just use it to their advantage whenever they want and maybe get away with it. But like, I don't know. I am very positive that if we had the technology to create AI as powerful as it was, we have technology that can detect AI. So to all the people that are using AI now, in a few years, you might be fucked. You might be totally exposed.
He said, "This is the best machine right here."
Oh yeah.
So it's never crossed your desk or ever been like a
ChatGPT. Oh, I've definitely used it. Like I have like moments where I'm in like a creative writing mode, and so if I have an idea, it's like if I have total writer's block, it's like how would a machine write this? But it's like I'm not gonna like
copy and paste it. You take that information, but
take
like,
elements of it.
I see what this is. I see the information it's giving, and now it has unlocked something in my brain to.
But like, even that,
find an answer.
Even that is a slippery slope. Like even that can be dangerous, you know, because it's like you're still. Because then your whole artistic kind of routine or your creative routine then hinges around technology. I'm sure a lot of human behaviors like music and art, you know, rely on technology in a non-problematic way. I don't think there's any non-problematic way to rely on AI.
Especially in your line of work, they can't go out and get these stories. They can't go out and like communicate and create that human connection.
Well, you know, they can. I read news reports where AI, to perform certain functions, they would hire like virtual workers or like, you know, people on like those odd job websites to like create like a certain thing or whatever. So it's like I'm sure. Hypothetically, an AI posing as a reporter could send an email to a government agency asking a bunch of questions. And the government agency loves emailing reporters. They never like talking on the phone. So I'm sure that government agency...
They're going to draft the perfect responses and everything.
Same day. And then the AI, you know, depending on its technological advancement, is going to know to challenge that question. If it knows... I'd be interested in how it would play out if that AI had an enhanced bullshit detector for government agencies, institutions, you know, law enforcement authority, whatever. Or, the AI is the AI that it is now, and it's just going to go, okay, government, I'm going to believe everything you say, and I'm going to quote it with 0 degree of critical thinking in my news article that I am just writing to flex on a technicality basis, as opposed to whether it has actual journalistic merit or not.
Yeah. What was that? Was that one like fable where it's like Paul Bunyan, the wood chopper guy against like the wood chopping machine or whatever,
right?
Where it's like, like it does its job faster than the human, but ultimately like the human still is gonna overpower it just because that's just how humans work, and technology eventually will just
that's incredible
shit itself or do something.
That's incredible. I totally forgot about Paul Bunyan, but that makes total sense.
After you bringing up that argument to where you're like, you can have the thing ask the questions, but does it have that sense like a person to be like, but I see the answer that you gave to this one question, I'm gonna just pick at this one thing and see if I can get more out of it, because I know there's still more to get into it, instead of just being like, cool, face value and run with it.
Oh yeah, it's very much a situation where it's like either AI can learn from us and outgrow us, or we can learn from it, and by some miracle of God, maybe that was what we were created for, or whatever, we outgrow them. I think that's very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you for that. That was good.
No, I like that.
And then I guess just my last question, that unless E-Man wants to end it off on anything, but you are an award-winning journalist.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have that kind of recognition as, hey man, I'm actually kind of good at this?
It's kind of different for me because I know how those awards are given out, because I'm on the OC Press Club, and so basically, those are all judged by like different press clubs from all over the country, and like in terms of like me judging, you read a bunch of stories and then you rank them in terms of how good they are. So it's like knowing how that works. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's taken a little bit of the magic from me.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's like at the same time, it's like, okay, at the end of the day, people are reading your shit and saying it's good, and they have nice words to offer. So it's like, do you really need any more than that to keep going? It's like, even a Pulitzer's like that. It's like, okay, well, it's a huge level of prestige, but it's like, it's some nice words.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Well, and I'm sure maybe there's, I actually don't know. I can't recall if the Pulitzer has like a monetary thing attached to it. You get money for it. I don't know. But
I don't think
as
it
far
does.
as any award, it's just nice words.
Yeah. Well,
it's the recognition right there. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, yeah. In totality, when you look back on it, it can be a little trippy. Like, I won all of these.
Yes.
So, who knows?
But no, man. Shit. E-Man, you got...
I mean, you were asking all the good questions, dude. I mean,
just doing what I do.
Yeah, that was great. I love this conversation, man. This is fun.
Yeah,
I really like this one.
It's good to stretch our limits for a podcast. With half a time we're just doing poo-poo pee-pee jokes.
That's fucking hilarious.
Like, all right, now we have to talk about local government and politics.
The real stuff.
Yeah. But shit, man. No, I had a great time. And thank you again for coming. And
totally.
Honestly.
I'm trying to think of the word, like, just surviving through this.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was gonna make it, because like I said, we try to be a funny podcast, but when I had told E-Man about getting you on, I was like, dude, like I'm just really excited about this, because I know like it's gonna be something totally different than what we normally do, and like I am super excited to do this.
It was so intriguing. This whole conversation was so good.
Oh, that's great.
So,
I'm glad. I was surviving my way through the conversation itself. I probably said some dumb shit. If there was at any point someone heard something I said and went, okay, I apologize. And I probably am right there with you.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Like I said, that's what 90% of our show constitutes anyway. So you're joining
excellent.
the club by being on here.
That's excellent.
But yeah, at the end, I mean, like I said, I don't have anything. E-Man, if you don't have anything, we'll leave this last bit up to you. You can talk to the people. Like I said, give them any thing that you want to plug, or just give some last minute remarks that you have to say to anyone or anything.
I would just say, I don't know. Fucking Wu-Tang is for the children, I guess.
That's right. That's a fucking fact.
That's subscribe to the place I work for. I feel like I didn't even say it. The place I work for is called Voice of OC. It's free, a free news site that anyone can read. We're donation sustained. So if you want to donate to us, you go to our website. We'll tell you how to do it. But it's free news about Orange County that you can use if you live in Orange County, or if you're interested in that shit. If you're interested in government in general, we find a lot of ways to make kind of common issues localized, but also still appeal to people who are interested in that issue in general. And free press is vital to democracy. And fucking, I don't know. Yeah.
There you go.
Any socials?
My Twitter username is Brandon Pho with like 4 O's now. It used to be Pho the Record, but there was some weird shit with my account, and I think I changed it thinking I needed to change my username when I didn't. So now I just lost a really cool username that was Pho the Record. That was tight as fuck. Now I just don't have that shit anymore because I was a fucking idiot. But anyway, yeah.
Well, cool, man.
Follow me there if you want. If I don't really tweet much about my news stuff, I just I kind of say whatever the fuck I want on Twitter. And a lot of people who follow me for news kind of get confused.
Like, is this the same guy?
I do plug some stuff. So if you follow me, you'll probably be... and I think I linked my author tag in there, but which links out to all the stories I've written for Voice. But yeah, you can go on there, find some great, enriching information food for your brain. And yeah, learn about how the world works, and let me take you to the start of all bullshit,
Beautiful.
Damn, this is amazing. This is poetic.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Something. Shit. All right, fuck it, E-Man. Where you gonna get you?
First off, Brandon, thank you again for coming on the show, man. This was a great conversation. I loved every part of it and every piece of it. And now I'm gonna start reading more news.
Excellent.
Support your local news. Hit me up on Instagram at @eMountainApp. Everything else I don't want you to find. And Tyson?
Oh, yeah, man. Brandon, I love you, brother. Thank you for coming. Great time. Appreciate you. Make sure you guys go check out the show at Too Good For You Pod. That's the number 2 good, the number 4, and the letter U pod. All socials, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're there. Like and subscribe on the YouTube. We're on TikTok and all the other fun stuff, Instagram. So, yeah, patreon.com. We do have a Patreon if you want to support it. $5 a month supports the show, gets us out the fucking trenches. So, make sure you guys go check it out if you want to support. And then, yeah, you can just find me on my socials at Iron Shogun for now. And we'll see you guys next time.
There it is.
Later.